Okay. Right, this one is a code question. So Jody and Todd frequently message each other in code. They always use the same code in which each letter of the alphabet is represented by a unique symbol. Okay, so each letter of the alphabet is represented by a unique symbol. You have to make sure you understand what that means. That means that each letter has a different, unique means different, one of a kind symbol. So J will stand for something different to what O stands for and vice versa. Now, if we look at this code, right, compare, right? Code questions are all about similarities and differences. That's all you have to do. So if you look at the symbols in the code, none of them are the same as the symbols in their names, right? We don't have a triangle anywhere. We don't have a question mark anywhere. We don't have a hashtag anywhere. We don't have a greater than symbol anywhere. We don't have any of these symbols in their names. So that means that the favorite season, right, has none of the letters in the names of Jody and Todd. So there's no J, there's no O, there's no D, there's no Y, and there's no T, right? So there's none of the letters in the names of Jody and Todd. So immediately we can cross out several options. We know that there's no T, right? There can't be a T. So C doesn't work. There can't be a D. Sorry, there can't be winter because winter has a T and there's no T. So we're basically left between spring and summer. Now in summer, there's repeated M's, but we don't have repetition of symbol here. That would correlate with repeated M's. So it can't be summer. So therefore it has to be spring. Done. See how easy that was? It's not hard. So just make sure you focus on similarities and differences. All right, question 35. The code to open a door in a computer game is a sequence of 4 pictures in a row. You have found the following clues about the code. The bell is next to the book. The apple is somewhere between the bell and the cat. The book is somewhere to the right of the cat. So you have to choose one of 4 possible questions to ask. We basically have 3 rules so far, right? 1, 2, 3. We don't have enough information to work out exactly what the code is. So which one of the following questions would allow you to deduce the code? So let's just draw a diagram. So first of all, we have bells next to the book. That's really vague. We don't know if it's to the left or the right. So we'll come back to that. The apple is somewhere between the bell and the cat. Again, that's kind of vague. This one is useful to start with. So let's start with rule number 3, because we know how the book is positioned relative to the cat. So cat is here, book is somewhere to the right, okay? Somewhere to the right of the cat. And then we know the bell is next to the book. So the bell could either be here or here, right? It's next to the book. We don't know where it is. So how about we list out the possible combinations? We can have cat, then bell, book, or we can have cat and I don't know, anything in between the cat and the book, and then book, bell. So the bell could either be to the left or to the right of the book, right? There's 2 possibilities. The bell is to the left or the right of the book, okay? So we've used up that rule. We've used up that rule. Apple is somewhere between the bell and the cat. So, okay. What are the possible combinations for apples between bell and cat? Well, for this one, it would be apple is here, right? So it's between the bell and the cat. And for this possibility, it would be that the apple's here. Because again, the book has to be right next to the bell, right? So the apple is between the bell and the cat, so the apple's here. So there's 2 possible combinations of the code based on these 3 rules so far, right? These 3 rules have basically led us to these 2 possible combinations. Now, we want to work out which combination is correct. Is it this one or is it this one? Now, what's the difference between these 2 combinations? Because we want to work out which question to ask to know for sure what the code is. Option A is the apple next to the book. Perfect, because if the apple is not next to the book, then it has to be this combo of cat, apple, bell, book. But if the apple is next to the book, then it has to be this combo. So if we were to ask that one question, right, is the apple next to the book, we will know which option to choose. Is it the first one or the second one? And that will allow us to deduce the code, the 4 sequences. Okay, so A is correct. Question 36. Although many birds are fiercely territorial, they're typically very sensitive when nesting. So territorial just means that you really care about the property or your territory, so they are very, very fierce about guarding their territory, so the land or the area or their place of habitance. They're typically very sensitive when nesting. If they feel their nest has been disturbed, they often abandon it altogether, even if the female has already laid her eggs. Now, this is not a conditional statement because they're not saying that X will definitely cause Y. They're just saying that X will often cause Y, which is abandonment. So disturbance of nest will often cause abandonment. Okay, so let's go through the different statements. We have Lorenzo. My dad accidentally disturbed a nest when he was cleaning the roof. So there's a good chance it may be disturbed now. Yes, because as we've worked out, if nest disturbed, often abandoned. Okay, so dad disturbed the nest, it's very likely that it is abandoned. We don't know for sure, but there's a good chance. So Lorenzo is correct. Katerina, there's an abandoned nest in the pomegranate tree in our garden that must have been disturbed. She's wrong because she's assuming that it was disturbed, but there could be other causes for abandonment, right? How do we know that disturbance of the nest has caused it to be abandoned? There could be other causes. So Katerina has committed the fallacy of assuming the cause when there's not sufficient evidence to validate her claim. Okay, so some other causes for abandonment of the nest could be maybe the parents themselves have some issue, right? Or maybe the eggs themselves are not viable, right? Maybe there's an issue with the eggs. There's so many possible reasons for why they might abandon the nest, not necessarily because it was disturbed. Okay, so Katerina is wrong because she said it must have been disturbed. It could be disturbed it could be disturbed, right? But how do we know it's definitely disturbed? So only Lorenzo is correct. Option A. Alright, question 37. 6 coins in our collection. There are 3 large coins, 3 small coins. For each size of coin, there's 1 coin with a circular hole in the middle, 1 with a square hole in the middle, and 1 with a star-shaped hole in the middle. Okay, so each coin is kept in a box, and all the boxes are same size. Each box has 2 symbols. So there's 2 symbols. One symbol identifies the size, and the other one identifies the type of hole. Okay, so size could either be large or small, and type of hole could either be circular, star-shaped, or square. Okay, circular, star-shaped, or square. Right, so what they've done here is they've given us almost a code, right? Codes for the different features of the coin. So if it's large circular coin, circular hole, then it has omega and E. And then if it's small with a square hole, it has pentagon and triangle. Now again, the trick to doing this question is focusing on similarities and differences. We have a pentagon here. We also have a pentagon here. So pentagon, we don't know if pentagon stands for small or if pentagon stands for square, but we know that one of these features must exist in the third box. So this is either small or square, right? Pentagon means either small or square. So we have to have, at least one of these features in the boxes. So let's go through and eliminate any option which does not have a small or square feature. Okay, so this one has square, this one is large and star shaped. So that's not possible because we have a pentagon, and pentagon can either stand for small or square. We can't just have none of these 2 features. So B we can eliminate. C could work because it's small, and D could also work because it's small. So we're left with A, C, D. Now let's worry about the diamond. So do any of the symbols have diamond? No, there's no diamond in any of the symbols. So that means we can't have large and circular, because large and circular, large is either the omega or the E. So because we have the diamond, it can't be large, right? It can't be large and it can't be circular because we don't have the diamond in anything representing, any of the symbols representing large and circular. So because it can't be large and circular, we can eliminate A because A has large, which won't work. And we can eliminate C because C has circular, which also won't work, right? So that leaves us with D. D must be our answer. So this was simply solved through a process of elimination. That's all it is, okay? All right, question 38. What is a mistake Chloe has made? In an athletics competition, there are 4 heats and every participant runs in 2 of the heats. The finalists are all of the participants who finished in the top 2. So this is a rule here, finished in the top 2 in at least one of the heats. So there are 2 heats, and that's the key thing. Well, there's 4 heats, but every participant runs in 2 heats. So what is a mistake Chloe has made? Chloe says Tim was faster than Leon in the first heat. So if Leon qualifies for the final, so will Tim. Not necessarily, because what if Leon qualified based on a different heat, right? So let's just say first heat. Let's just say hypothetically we have Jen, we have Steve, and then we have Tim and Leon. So basically Tim and Leon, they're not in the top 2, so they don't qualify. And then maybe in the second heat we have Leon qualify, right? But if we don't have Tim anywhere in the top 2 for any of the 4 heats, any of the 2 heats, sorry, then there's no way that he'll qualify. So what is a mistake Chloe has made? Chloe has failed to account for the possibility that Leon might have qualified based on his performance in his other heat. So yeah, maybe Tim beat Leon, but maybe Leon didn't qualify based on his position in the first heat. Maybe Leon qualified because he came in the top 2 in a different heat, right? The rule is that you have to finish in the top 2 in at least one of the heats. How do we know that Tim has finished in the top 2? We don't, right? There's nothing here that warrants that Tim would have finished in the top 2 in any of the heats, so therefore we can't conclude this to be true, that Tim will definitely qualify for the final. So C is our best answer. Okay, for this question, there's several ways you can go about solving this. This is a logic game question, so let's set up a diagram. Let's quickly set up a diagram. So just bear with me for a while. I'll try to get through this quickly. Hopefully you guys can be a bit more speedy than I am. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to set up a diagram where I'll have the 4 activities listed, which is fishing, reading, playing the piano, and drawing. And then I'll also have the 4 people. So that's P, that's Q, that's R, S, and T. Okay, cool. And I'm just going to separate those. And then in terms of the eye color, so obviously they have either blue or brown eyes. Different ways. I'm going to use this as blue and a different color to represent brown. But obviously when you guys are doing an exam, you don't have as much liberty and time to set up diagrams like that, but I'm just doing it for the sake of helping you guys. Okay, so right. Okay, so P likes reading and fishing. So immediately I'm just going to put a tick for reading and fishing. And remember the rule, they like 2 of the following activities. Okay, so they like 2 of the following activities. That means that P does not like piano and P does not like drawing. Q likes playing the piano and fishing. So piano, fishing, right? So that means he does not like the other 2 activities. S likes drawing. Okay. And then the last 2 rules is where the trick to answering this question lies. Okay, this one's a little bit hard, so just bear with me. But the last 2 rules states everyone likes fishing except one person with blue eyes. We'll come back to that in a sec. Everyone with brown eyes like reading. Okay, so this is a bit confusing, but think about it like this. If you don't have brown eyes, then you don't like reading. Sorry, no, let me rephrase that. If you don't like reading, then you can't possibly have brown eyes. Does that make sense? Because everyone with brown eyes like reading. In other words, if brown eyes, like reading. So if not like reading, then not brown eyes, therefore blue eyes. So if you don't like reading, then you have blue eyes. That's why if we look at P, now P might have blue eyes still, because P likes reading, but it doesn't mean that if you like reading, you have brown eyes. It just means that if you have brown eyes, you like reading. So P possibly has blue eyes, brown eyes, we don't know. But for Q, we know for sure that Q cannot have brown eyes because Q does not like reading. Q does not like reading. And everyone with brown eyes like reading. So Q has to have blue eyes. Okay, so Q has blue eyes. Now, this makes option B look, half promising because we already have half of it correct. A, there are more people with brown than blue eyes. So that means that there's going to be 3 or 4 brown-eyed people compared to 1 or 2 blue-eyed people. Now, this is a little bit hard to gauge from such limited information because obviously, as you can see, we don't have a lot of information. We can't even complete this whole diagram, but that's okay. Let's just look at the next rule. Everyone likes fishing except one person with blue eyes. Okay, so everyone likes fishing except one person with blue eyes. Now, look at S. S is where it gets interesting. Let's try to work out if S has blue or brown eyes. So what you have to do is you want to test out the different possibilities. So if S has brown eyes, is that possible? If S has brown eyes, right, everyone with brown eyes like reading, so that means S has to have reading, S has to like reading and drawing. But that's not possible because it says everyone likes fishing except one person with blue eyes. So it's not possible for us to have a circumstance where someone with brown eyes doesn't like fishing, right? That wouldn't work. So S can't have brown eyes because if S had brown eyes, then S would like reading, and we also know already that S likes drawing. So these are the 2 activities fulfilled, and that just means that we would have someone with brown eyes who does not like fishing, but that would contradict this rule that everyone likes fishing except one person with blue eyes. So it's not possible for S to have brown eyes, so therefore S must have blue eyes. Does that make sense? So S must have blue eyes. Okay, and that's pretty much all we can gauge. We don't even know which activities are and S and T exactly. Oh, sorry, we know that S likes fishing. Oh, S doesn't like fishing, right? So S doesn't like fishing, so S just likes reading or piano, right? That's all we have, right? And that's enough to answer this question. So the trick with logic game questions is make sure you understand the rules and also understand that you don't necessarily have to complete a diagram. Here we have an incomplete diagram, but through a process of elimination and through thinking of negatives of, circumstances that cannot exist, we can come to the conclusion that S has blue eyes and Q has blue eyes. Now, these were all arrived at actually finding the opposite of this statement, or not the opposite, the contrapositive, which is that if you don't like reading, you don't have brown eyes, so therefore you have blue eyes. So you always have to be conscious that when you don't have a lot of information, sometimes you have to work through elimination, work through a process of exclusion, okay? I hope that makes sense. This is a pretty hard question. Okay,